What Do We Do? A podcast discussing wealth management and financial planning, introducing listeners to the leaders in our community. Hosted by the founder and CEO of Great Lakes Wealth, Dewey Steffen, alongside WWJ Midday News anchor, Brooke Allen.
Hey, I'm Brooke Allen. Our goal with the What Do We Do podcast is to educate listeners on topics that impact your financial growth, your retirement, and your lifestyle.
And I'm Dewey Steffen. Join us twice a month as we welcome some of today's leaders in the community for conversations that can help with investment decisions so you can plan for and live your best life.
Here's Dewey Steffen alongside Brooke Allen.
Hey, I'm Brooke Allen. Thank you so much for being with us on the What Do We Do podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell, share, whatever. We're so happy to be here. Of course, it is season 2, episode 12. Number 54. So we are rocking and rolling. Of course, Dewey Steffen is here too. And hey, Dewey.
Brooke, it's great to see you. Happy February.
Yes.
It's the middle of winter here in Michigan.
Brutal.
Hello, everyone out there in YouTube world and podcast nation. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the What Do We Do podcast. Again, the mission of the What Do We Do podcast is to be a leader in the community and to give back to the community. And the way that we do that is we find other leaders in the community that have a story to tell, knowledge to share, and advice to give. And then we get them on our podcast to provide their expertise and tell their story with our entire community. So excited to have a special guest here today, Brooke.
Yes, it's amazing. And I can't wait to hear his story.
Yes, well, I'd like to give a real brief introduction to Mr. Austin Hatch. For those that don't know, Austin was featured in an ESPN documentary called Miraculous. And I'm going to tell you all before I go any further to write that down or type it into your Google search bar or to YouTube and check out the ESPN documentary Miraculous. And you're going to hear Austin's story told by ESPN. And with that, all I'm going to say today, Austin, is I'm so happy you're here. And for our audience, you were born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and you are a Michigan Wolverine. For sure. And that is all I'm going to say. The rest of the story, I'm going to let you tell, and then we're also going to communicate, our thoughts and put some of the pieces together alongside you. Is that okay today?
That sounds great.
My friend, great to see you here.
Good to see you as well.
Welcome to the podcast. Thanks, Austin.
I appreciate it. Good to see you all.
Absolutely. So, yeah, please tell your story. And for those that don't know, it's an amazing story. And thanks again for being here.
No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And, yeah, so I've got a unique story. Had an incredible childhood, and the kind of childhood most kids dream of, I feel like. And so my mom, Julie, was an incredible homemaker growing up, had always great food on the stove. We'd go outside, play hard, and come inside, always good food there. And my buddies and I always loved coming over to our house or their house or wherever, just an idyllic childhood, the kind of childhood most kids dream of. But then tragically, we were flying home from my grandparents' vacation home in northern Michigan, and my dad was a doctor, was also a pilot, and the airplane tragically crashed and claimed the lives of my mom, Julie, who was 38 at the time. My sister, Lindsay, was 11. Little brother, Ian, was only 5. Incomprehensible loss, right? But my dad and I found a way to press on in the midst of that and keep living. I don't think you ever really move on from that kind of a loss, but you just find ways to cope with it, which we did. And eventually he was remarried to a lovely woman named Kimberly, who had 3 kids of her own and had a great blended family. Restore some normalcy in my life. Not the same, obviously, but, great to have a mom and siblings at home again. And life was good. And I was working hard on my basketball skills on the court. Got to be pretty good, fortunately. And Coach B.
Pretty good. Hold on here. Pretty good. I know that when you were recruited by Coach B, that'd be Coach Beeline, for all those out there that don't know. It's been said that he came to watch you play a game, and you had 30 points. And I'm going to see if you know how many rebounds. I'm going to say 12 rebounds?
I think 16.
Correct. Ding, ding, ding. Ring that bell. I was just testing my man. 16 rebounds. 16. And so you had some game. And were recruited by, like you said, Coach B. And what year was this?
That was 2011. He saw me play as a sophomore. yeah, he saw me play once and, liked what I had to offer. And then Coach B, the cool thing about him, Coach never offered guys scholarships before June of their sophomore year because he wants to see 2 years of good grades before. Because if you have good grades your freshman year and then you fall off as a sophomore, junior, senior, right? Like he wants to see 2 years of consistent good grades to get it to be on his team because Coach has a pretty complex offense and you got to be smart to be able to execute his game plans and everything and the scouting report. So he was, I guess, okay with my grades. They weren't great. They were good enough though. And he offered me a scholarship, and I accepted on the spot, and it was a dream come true. And yeah, I look forward to having a great career at Michigan, hopefully. So,
yeah, that was a great start to what was going to be the rest of your life. And then what happened after that?
Yeah, so June 15th, I commit. Coach B and I commit to each other. June 15th, 2011. Then 9 days later, June 24th, my dad, second mom, and I never used the term stepmom. She was my mom, loved me like I was her own, and not the same, obviously, but it was a great situation altogether. And we were flying to northern Michigan, the same place we were returning from in 2003. And as we were preparing to land, tragically the airplane crashed and took my dad and second mom's life on impact and almost killed me too. Put me in a coma for a couple months with a long list of injuries, traumatic brain injury, punctured lungs, 5 broken ribs, clavicles, hematoma in my leg, pelvis, but I don't even know all the injuries that I had. But by the grace of God, I came out of the coma and survived, literally speaking. But I was determined to find a way to thrive in the midst of it. And, I was, as I said, by the grace of God, I survived. I can take no credit for that. Nothing I did right. Maybe I was in good shape. That may have helped. Probably not. Didn't really do much, though. I survived by the grace of God, and I was just determined to find a way to thrive in the midst of it. I think we'll talk about this more in a few minutes, but my dad always told me, he said, go big or go home, man. Mm-hmm. Go big or go home. Don't waste your time going halfway. In sports, go big or go home. In school, go big or go home. In relationships, go all in, right? And in my recovery, it was just the same thing. I'm just going to go all in. Go big or go home.
So let's talk about that. So 3 months you were in a induced coma, correct?
But I think about 9 weeks.
9 weeks in a coma.
Eight or 9.
And then you had months of recovery, and again, not just physical recovery so you could play basketball again, but you again had to learn to walk again. You again had all kinds of internal injuries. You had I don't know if it was brain damage, but you had brain injuries, if that's correct.
For sure.
And so you had to relearn a lot of things, right? So if you can, just for a few minutes, walk us through the time frame. So again, this podcast is only an hour max, everyone. Brooke, mm-hmm. But the story can be told in hours and days and weeks. And so with that, we'll go fast as we have to. But again, the recovery, 9 weeks in a coma, and then from starting your recovery and rehab to when were you able to leave the hospital and then walk to again back to high school to play basketball and finish, and then I'll let you tell the rest of the story.
Yeah. So I was discharged from the hospital October 8th, 2011, and to be discharged from the RIC in Chicago, the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. It's now called the Shirley Ryan Rehabilitation Institute, renamed or whatever, which is no big deal. But so to be discharged from there, I had to walk up and down a flight of stairs by myself. And I was discharged October 8th, 2011, which was awesome. And so I got out of the hospital early. I was supposed to be there through Christmas, but got out there early, but thanks to incredible doctors and therapists and everybody, and got home and just got to work. And eventually, once I had balance, there was good enough where I could be like functional, like live a normal life, walking up and down stairs and stuff and do everything by myself. We're doing my rehab. Because my therapist in Fort Wayne was a former college basketball player at a small college in Fort Wayne. And our therapy was in the gym, and he was helping me regain my ability to shoot and dribble a little bit. And so, yeah, it was great. And so the accident was June 24th, 2011. I got in a game, I think January 6th, 2014. So it was about 2.5 years to get into a game again. But, yeah, got in a game in California when I was out there. And first time in 2.5 years, coach calls a play for me and got a nice down screen. Came off the screen and was fortunate enough to hit the shot. And
if I recall, it was for 3. Was it?
It was.
Three-pointer?
It was.
Okay.
It was.
Okay.
You know, it was, I hit a lot of rim though. I would have liked it to be all net.
Okay.
I hit a lot of rim. But hey, I guess 3 is 3 though. It counts the same either way. So
From the video I saw, it looked like it was nothing but net. So you got that camera angle going for you. Who, was your caretaker from, the rest of your minor days?
yeah, when I got discharged from the RIC in Chicago, I went to live with my sister Maria in Fort Wayne for a couple years. And then all my friends went to college, but I missed a year of school because of the recovery and stuff. Mm-hmm. So when they went to college, I went out to LA. So it was kind of like the same, not the same, but they went to college. I went to a year of prep school, basically, in a way, and went out to live with my aunt and uncle in Pasadena, California. Went to school downtown LA, which I know you know well. Mm-hmm. And it was great. I formed some great relationships there, great friendships, and those people really, they changed my life too. I'm just so grateful that in the midst of all the tragedy and loss and pain, I've had so many great people who just stepped up and just rose to the occasion. So I found it's hard to be grateful and negative at the same time. So obviously what happened to me was a net negative for sure, obviously, like with all the tragedies and everything, terrible. But not that there's positives that have come from it, but there's a lot of good things that have happened despite that loss,
Can I ask you a question as far as when you were physically rehabbing, right, and going through that and recovering, did that help you emotionally?
Yeah, I think it did because it just gave me something else to focus on. I was injured so bad, and having to focus on relearning how to walk and do schoolwork, right, and how to do pretty much everything.
Right.
I don't want to say you don't have time to grieve the loss or focus on the tragedies, but it's like I think about for all the other people in my family, they were obviously busy caring for me too, but for them it was like they had to worry about me, or they chose to worry about me because they're great people, but they just had the loss, and like there wasn't much to distract them from it. And I don't want to say distract as in distraction's a good thing, but I just think it's having other things in your life to occupy your attention is important when you go through something tough like that, because if you don't have other things to focus on, you'll just get consumed by the tragedy, and that will
right, the grief will eat you up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that I don't think that's a good thing. Good way to live life. So,
so you graduated from Loyola High School in Los Angeles, is that right?
Yep.
And then you went back to Indiana and you opened a pizzeria, is that right?
Actually, no.
No, that's not what happened?
No,
okay.
No.
Okay.
There are some great pizza places in Fort Wayne, though.
None are called Hatch's Pizza
No.
Austin's Awesome Pizza?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
You know what? If I need to change a career, I might think about that, though.
Right. Why not, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, great. So you are recovered. You're able to walk and talk and think and play a little basketball, okay? And, again, you recovered well. So then what? What happened after high school?
So after I spent my year in California, year prep school, kind of. Coach B honored my scholarship, which is incredible. And one of the things I talk about today, and we'll talk about this more in a few minutes, but Coach honored my scholarship. I went to Michigan and had an incredible 4 years. Actually put myself in the record books at Michigan, believe it or not, Dewey. I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history.
Is that right?
Nobody will ever score less than 1 point a game and stay on scholarship for years. Or at least I highly doubt it.
Okay, right.
I highly doubt it.
Right.
So
Fantastic.
maybe that's not a record to be proud of, but
You have a trophy with that?
I would be very proud of that. So if you want to switch, that I'm happy to be varsity basketball alumni with that amazing program. So that's, to me, insane, right? And that's, again, where the story just really starts. So we are going to talk about life after Michigan basketball, but, again, from your childhood and then being a scholar athlete and having Coach Beeline honor your athletic scholarship to play men's basketball. And you were on some pretty good teams, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe, again, talk for a minute about your time at Michigan as a basketball player and, again, your teammates here at Great Lakes Wealth and the What Do We Do podcast. We always say that together, everyone achieves more.
For sure.
Team. But
sure.
So, again, don't just drive through the 4 years Michigan like that. Let's take a pause. Let's talk about your basketball, but let's also talk about your academics and what you learned there.
Yep.
And then there might be a little social part of your college that you want to talk about too. So
a small part of a small part of that. So, my time at Michigan was incredible, and I'll be eternally grateful for Coach Beeline. And as far as I'm concerned, he's, my dad was the second greatest of all time. As far as, Jesus Christ, number one, my dad, two. Coach B's got to be number three, or at least up there, right? One of the greatest ever. I mean, you talk about just the character that he had, the way he led the team, the way he impacted all of us as people, as young men, the way that what we learned from him, the example he set every day. I mean, it's just incredible. And I'm just so grateful for my time there with Coach and all the things that he taught me and the way he included me in the program. It gave me a role. My role let me know my role was important, right? And yeah, I just am so grateful. So I was blessed to be a part of the team 4 years. Was on the roster my freshman year. Got in a couple games where I scored a free throw. And like I said, they would put me in the record books, and I'm proud of that. But I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete ever, which is. Maybe it's the record to be proud of, maybe it's not. But then I took a medical hardship scholarship sophomore, junior, senior year, which is a program that Michigan has that for athletes who have career-ending injuries. So you can stay on scholarship 4 years, but your scholarship doesn't count against the program. So they could use my scholarship for somebody who could actually help the team on the court, right? And I'm so grateful that everything was the same though, and I was at practice and helping, doing the things that I could do. And
then in the classroom, what did you get your degree in, and what else were you doing besides working out with the team and going to class? Yeah,
so I got my degree in a program called Organizational Studies at Michigan, which is the Ross School of Business. It's like the business degree. Organizational Studies is Ross is its own entity. It's separate from Michigan, like LS&A, the Literature, Science, and Arts, but Org Studies is the LS&A business degree. So I got it's kind of a combination of business and social science. So I had econ, finance, accounting, all that stuff, but then a little bit of psychology, sociology, that kind of stuff. So you get a little bit of both until you learn a little more, not just numbers, but also a little bit about the psychology of business, which I think is important. So it was great. I'm really grateful that I was admitted to that program, and didn't just spend all my time. I like to think I studied pretty hard, but could have probably studied harder in hindsight. But so my freshman year, the fall of my freshman year in the undergraduate science building, I had a class, political science, and it's a class. There's 800 people in the class, divided among 3 lecture halls. The professor's in one; he's on video camera in the other 2. And the lecture hall is organized by last name. My wife's maiden name was Cole.
Okay.
And my last name's Hatch, obviously. So she was in a different lecture hall than me. So it was A through G was in one, and then H through N or H through P was in whatever the organization was. So she's in a different lecture hall than me, but gets an email saying, "Hey, you need to switch to this other lecture hall because we did a reorganization of the class for whatever reason." Okay, that's fine. So, it's 8:30 a.m. class on Tuesday, Thursday, 8:30 a.m. I'm there, I tried to be on time most days, and I was on time that day, and I knew my wife, Abby, walked in, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, 15, 20 minutes late, and she was looking for a seat, and I had a seat next to me, fortunately, and I was just trying to be a great teammate.
Right?
So
For sure.
I gotta say, hey, right? And she took the bait and from there we hit it off and started dating a month later, and then 3.5 years after that got engaged the night she graduated from Michigan, because she was a year ahead of me. And then my senior year at Michigan, we were engaged, and then we got married a month after I graduated from Michigan. So blessed.
That's awesome.
Very blessed.
That's awesome. And Abby was also a student athlete, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she's a very good student athlete. Really good volleyball player. I hope our kids get her athletic genes. She was she was a great volleyball player. She was a 3-time All-American. Not to brag on her, but I say, how can I not?
Right,
How
absolutely. Well, we wanted to make sure that we give Abby a shout out today for sure.
Yeah.
She is a very important part of your story.
For sure.
And yes, big shout out to Abby and what she brought to your table. And I think that's an amazing story. So your freshman year at Michigan, you were known for these events. I mean, this was not some secret, and you were put in the corner because no one wanted to talk about this. I think were the talk of the campus in some regards, right? Not in some celebrity way or some obnoxious way. You can speak more of that than I can, but whether it was Abby knew you before she knew you, or other people on campus, again, appreciated and wanted to share love with you for hearing about your childhood. So is any of that true? Or
yeah, I think it. I think I had a lot of support throughout my journey, and people would always just say thinking of you, praying for you and your family, wish you all the very best. People that I would see in my hometown of Fort Wayne, the whole town really wrapped their arms around me and my family and stuff. And when I got to Michigan, because the ESPN thing came out, I think maybe in the winter time of my freshman year, and that kind of made some news and made the story more public. And those who had followed the basketball program, knew about my story and stuff. But I'm just so grateful that I have Michigan as part of my story. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just.
So how was that for you when this came out?
Yeah, it's like, I kind of wish it was like just a little like less public, but I get the fact that it gets people's attention because it was my second one, and then I commit to Michigan a week before, and it's like kind of I understand how it gets people's attention, and I'm just like I said before, there's so many people who just like everybody would always just like because I think a lot of people didn't always know what to say because like my story is kind of unrelatable. Like, right, like everybody faces challenges, but like the tragedy and the plane crashes, that's kind of unrelatable, fortunately, or it's very unrelatable. But yeah, people would always just be supportive and loving and just, praying for you and your family, man. Like, wish you all the best. If there's ever anything I can do to help you, like, I'll do it. I'll do whatever I can. And
you were probably sincere too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so.
Right.
And yeah, it's, I'm just so grateful that, I have Michigan part of my story, and I think Michigan's a special place. Not to diminish any other institution, because I'm sure a lot of places would have.
Oh, listen, we can diminish them. Okay.
Okay.
We can diminish them. Let's go blue.
Okay, go blue. Okay. Go blue.
So yes, but anyway, continue.
But I was just gonna say, I feel like, like there's that song. It says like, I believe most people are good. I really think they are. I think there's a lot more good in the world than bad. A lot more good people than people who aren't so good. And yeah, I'm just. I keep going back to this. I'm just grateful for all the things that I've been blessed with, despite the tragedies that I've unfortunately experienced. So.
Hey guys, it's Brooke. I want to take a minute to talk to you about Dewey Steffen and his great team at Great Lakes Wealth. Do you feel overwhelmed managing your assets? Well, Great Lakes Wealth offers Wall Street solutions with Main Street values. That is really what they are all about. They will help you develop a custom financial plan utilizing all of your assets and keeping your goals in mind. That is what Great Lakes Wealth is all about, helping you and your family achieve your financial dreams. So go to greatlakeswealth.us to schedule an appointment today and tell them Brooke sent you.
Well, thank you for getting us to this point. Now, this is where you didn't go back to Fort Wayne because you're now married to Abby and you both graduated. So you're living in Ann Arbor and you opened a pizzeria. Is this right?
No. Although I did work for Domino's in the corporate office.
The corporate office is Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the world headquarters of the #1 pizza company in the world.
Okay. And there is good local pizza on campus of Ann Arbor. We can confirm that as well, right?
There is that, but I still pledge my allegiance to Domino's, though.
Okay. Well, so nope, Austin Hatch or Abby Hatch Pizzeria.
Not yet. Okay. No, I'm not saying never. Okay. Just not at the current juncture.
Pizza?
I love pizza.
Okay.
I love pizza. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So since there's not a pizzeria that you're going to every day, let's talk about what you're doing now. It is also an inspirational story. It's equally to everyone listening and everyone viewing. And by the way, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. We talked about this in the last podcast, but we are over 25,000 downloads, views, watches of the What Do We Do podcast. We're extremely blessed as well. We're extremely full of gratitude. And thanks for our community for listening to us as we try to share what we know about, things within our community, but also can share the people that we know and some other amazing stories. So there's no pizzeria, but you are now a graduate and have a wife, and you need to start the next phase of your life. So where are we and where do we go?
So after I graduated, to backtrack a little bit, I interned in the corporate office at Domino's for a couple summers, summer after sophomore, summer after junior year. Was offered a job in the corporate office, which I accepted, and love Ann Arbor, Domino's is a great company, and kind of built this speaking business as I was in college and then while I was at Domino's too. Eventually left Domino's to do this full time, which I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to spread my message and share my story for a living and inspire other people to overcome their challenges. And so I left Domino's November of 19. A good December, good January, good February, and then the world shut down in March. But, I think resilience, one of the things I talk about is, not necessarily Mr. Webster says something like resilience is getting back to your original state despite being acted upon by an outside force or object or something like that. Like when you're forced to detour, you get back to where you currently were or where you were before. I don't agree with that though. I think resilience is finding a different way to win after you experience something. Because most of the time when you experience a challenge, a hardship, adversity, a tragedy, God forbid, or whatever the challenge may be, we're not going to be able to get back to the exact same way we were before. But finding a different way to win is not a bad thing. Like with COVID-19, I don't know if things are going to go back to exactly how they were pre-COVID for a while.
I do, and they won't. Okay. They will never go back the way they were 100%. I will go on record for this podcast. So
that further substantiates my point. Like when you're resilient, when COVID hits, you're resilient. You bounce back, but more than bounce back, you just find a different way to win. It's like at Michigan, we'd have these great game plans for Michigan State. Credit to any Michigan State fans who may be watching this or any other school, but Coach Izzo would always have great plans for us, and he would do things we didn't expect every time, or every coach would pretty much. But you'd find a way to win, even though you didn't see something coming. And in life, I think we're all determined to find ways to win, but we're going to get hit with roadblocks and stuff that we don't see coming. So if you're resilient, you just find a way.
One of the biggest words of 2020 was pivot. Mm-hmm. You had to pivot.
For sure.
And again, on the basketball court, you can pivot, and that is change direction. Mm-hmm. or to your point, when things happen, you have to make a change.
For sure.
You have to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like you're speaking in person for, December, January, February. March 6th was my last one in Austin, Texas.
And again, let's slow down. So what were you doing? So you left Domino's.
So I left Domino's and my little speaking business that we've kind of built, Overcome It LLC.
Speaking business, it's a little bit more than a speaking business, okay? You are a national motivational speaker. So we are going to say that one more time. Austin Hatch is a national motivational speaker that tells his story, but then also has an acronym that he uses and tells a different story about future, if that's correct. So with that, tell the name of the business again, and then let's get into the dirty details.
Yeah. No, thank you. So the business is called Overcome It LLC. Our goal is to help people overcome whatever it is, it being the obstacle they're facing, whether it's COVID, work, family, life, whatever, everybody's got an it they're trying to overcome. I think most people do. Most people's life isn't free of adversity, free of challenge. So at least mine's not. I mean, even though I faced some big ones already, there's still challenges. But I embrace challenge, embrace adversity, because adversity makes you better. You grow from it. You don't grow from the adversity itself, but you grow from how you're forced to respond, how you pivot in the midst of it. So the little acronym we have, so it's about grit. I talk about grit, and my friend Angela Duckworth from University of Pennsylvania, I'm sure you know her, some of you viewers may know her. She says that grit's passion and perseverance for long-term goals. And now she's kind of the grit queen, if you will. She's done incredible work. Obviously, I'm much well below her as far as on the totem pole, so to speak. But she says this passion and perseverance for long-term goals. That's true for sure. Grit does apply to the long-term goal, no, undoubtedly. But I think it also applies to everything we do every single day. On my recovery, it took some grit to get to Michigan. To go from a wheelchair, when coach comes to see me and says, "Austin, I can't wait to coach you someday, man. Whenever you're able to come to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you." I didn't know how exactly I was going to do it, but it just took some grit, though. And so I think grit's defined more specifically than just working hard for the long-term vision. So I think grit's the 4 letters, 4 key components to it, but it starts with working for a greater purpose. Whatever that greater purpose is, whether it's your faith, your family, your friends, your teammates, the organization. I mean, hopefully all of us are somewhat internally driven to be the best we can be every day, right? But I think if we're not working for something bigger than ourselves, eventually we're going to give up because it's going to get too hard, too difficult. Oh, it's just for me. I'm doing this only for me. Not really worth it. But if I got family that's counting on me, or if I can, for me, if I feel that I can honor my family in heaven by how I choose to respond, no doubt in my mind I'm going to get it done. I'm going to give it everything I got. So I think whatever that purpose is, again, different for everybody. But when you have that greater purpose, it drives grit at all times, but especially in the face of adversity. So the G
is
growth mindset.
Growth mindset.
Which views adversity as opportunity. I believe we grow from anything we experience. As I mentioned, not the adversity that'll cause us to grow, but I think we grow from how we're forced to respond. We'd lose a game or two at Michigan when I was there. Coach would always come in the locker room and say, "We're going to watch the film, and we're going to find a way to get better from it. We're going to watch the film of the game, and we're going to find a way to get better from it." So I think having a growth mindset, just looking at every adversity, every challenge as an opportunity, I think it just makes sense. So the R is the decision to be resilient. And when we make the decision to be resilient, it's bouncing back in the face of adversity, finding a way to achieve our goals. I think it's more about resilience is taking massive action in the face of adversity. Whether or not we achieve our goals despite the adversity, whether or not we bounce back, that's the byproduct of taking massive action, right? One of my coaches at Michigan always said, if our actions don't line up with our dreams and our goals, we either need to change our actions or we need to change our dreams and our goals. So we'd have these team meetings before the season. What are your goals for the year? Big Ten championship, undefeated at home, national championship, right? Whatever the goals were. Then we'd say, okay, great. Well, if our actions don't line up with the goals we've set, we either have to change our actions and start working harder, or we're going to change our goals. And I think that's kind of a life idea. It just kind of makes sense. So the I is integrity. Mm-hmm. And of course, we all know that integrity is about being honest, doing the right thing when no one's looking, going about our business the right way. I'm sure integrity is part of the culture here. And, but I think in addition, integrity is about following through on our commitments, especially when our circumstances change. Coach Beon offered me that scholarship, but I was playing at a pretty high level. I had to get a lot better. But he thought that he was going to be able to get a return on his investment in me by me scoring and rebounding and contributing on the court.
That was 30 points, 16 rebounds when he came to watch you.
That was a high school game. Big Ten basketball is different, so I can't say it would have translated, but hopefully it would have. Who knows? I'll never know. But so he offered me a scholarship, and he thought he was going to be able to get an ROI, not to use an investment term here.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's return on investment for all of those that are listening and watching. Return on investment.
Yeah. So he thought he was going to get a tangible ROI by me scoring and rebounding, and helping the team win championships on the court, win games, and hopefully championships. The second plane crash happens 9 days later, almost takes my life. I'm in a coma. I come out of it by the grace of God. I can't play. But coach's follow-through to me didn't waver even though the circumstances drastically changed. And I'm like, man, if we can all do that, right? Mm-hmm. If we can all have our follow-through and our commitments not be contingent on the circumstances. If everybody on our team knows that when we make a commitment to them, we're going to get it done and we're going to follow through. If everybody does that consistently, I feel like we're going to win. So last letter, T. T is the team first mentality. We should always think about the team first. Every person on every team on the planet has a role, and the role is very important. Otherwise, that person probably wouldn't be on the team. You know, as I mentioned, I scored 1 point in 4 years at Michigan. I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history. My role on the team was to be a great teammate, bring positive energy to the gym every day, shag balls in practice, and unload luggage at road trips. That was my role. My goal was to be the best of which I was capable. Coach John Wooden says success is peace of mind attained only from knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you're capable. I think if we can all do that again, if we can all make that effort to be the best of which we're capable every day, our team's going to win. So that's grit. Purpose-driven, growth mindset, resilience, integrity, team-first mentality.
I love it.
Almost hear a basketball, like just you on the court, right? Just talking about that and just living it, really. I mean, through all of this, it's amazing.
So I have 3 children. Brooke has Twinkies and an older child as well. But as you're saying that, I'm thinking about my children. Here at Great Lakes Wealth, we do talk teamwork. We do have teammates and colleagues. But to what you said, I'm thinking specifically about the next generation and those that we can teach and mentor, and that it's not just one of those 4. It's not just the G or the R or the I or the T, but it seems, again, that they are all independent, but they all can go together. What are your thoughts on how you can implement that message, and do they work together? Are they all independent? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they do all work together, because I think so. Purpose drives grit at all times, especially in the face of adversity. As I said, the growth mindset drives us to make the decision to be resilient. Resilience is the action. The growth mindset is how we interpret adversity. And that drives the action of resilience. Integrity is kind of separate. Following through on our commitments, especially when our circumstances change. I guess that goes with the team first mentality too, because if we're great teammates, we're going to follow through because we know our teammates are counting on us. So maybe you could say the growth mindset and resilience go together, and then integrity and the team first mentality go together. And I guess in a way you could say that great teammates lead by example. So we're going to have the growth mindset. We're going to be resilient because our teammates are counting on us. And people don't. You never know how big of an impact just setting an example can be for somebody. And if we, especially today with all the technology in the world and everything, the world's a lot smaller now with Instagram and Snapchat and all of these things. The world's a lot smaller now. People are always watching, and I think if we remember that, especially in the face of adversity, people are watching how we respond. Not to say that we're going to do a better job of being resilient just because there's other people watching, but if we realize that, hey, you know what, this challenge that I'm going through, I'm the only one directly impacted by it, like directly impacted. But it's really not even about me. I mean, it is because it's impacting me a lot, but it's like what it's about is how I can use this challenge to be of service to other people. And I feel like if we just have that mentality, that mindset, we'll find a way to overcome. We'll find a way to thrive. And as I mentioned before, by the grace of God, I survived the second plane, both plane crashes, but especially the second one, I was almost killed with injuries and stuff. But if we decide that we're going to find ways to use our challenges to be of service to other people, I think we'll find a way to overcome and find a way to thrive. Not just survive, we'll find a way to thrive.
Amen. Love that. Booyah. You like that?
I got to work on
that. That's booyah. That's it. We blow it up. What do we do? Booyah style.
What do we do? Booyah. Like Cray America, right?
Well, he may have borrowed that from me, but that's a story for another day. So what happens when adversity, comes and you aren't successful? You mentioned adversity before, and I actually was going to tell you that we do say around here, adversity builds character. So definitely how you respond to adversity is important, and that helps build character. And then we say that character manifests success. So with that, though, sometimes it doesn't work out. So sometimes, whatever the G or the R or the I or the T, whatever one of those, your integrity falters. So do you, say, all right, well, that's it. It's over. I'm just going to go down a different path, and I'm going to pivot into forgetting all of this? Or no? Do you have some kind of safe word or something that you do to make sure that you don't quit?
Yeah, I think, I don't want to sound idealistic and say that, if you just do these, if you decide to be driven by something bigger than yourself, growth mindset, resilience, integrity, team first mentality, you're not gonna just blow through every obstacle like it's not even there. That's not realistic, right? But I think when you face a challenge and it doesn't go as you don't achieve your goal or you fall short for whatever reason, it's a learning opportunity, right? It's like at Michigan, we never lost a game intentionally. In sports, nobody ever loses a game intentionally. But by losing, like, for example, my senior year at Michigan, we lost a couple games early in the season. That if you look at like the scouting report and the stat sheets, we probably shouldn't have lost. Like if Vegas would not have said we were going to lose those games, if you get what I'm saying, but we did, and okay, it is what it is. But you grow from that, and then we got to the national championship game my senior year. We were one of two teams in the country playing in April of 2018, and so it's like when you're going to fall short, it's inevitable. But look at the opportunity. Look where you can learn from it, right? And I think in life, it's like, yeah, you're going to fall short. Yeah, things aren't going to go your way. Yeah, sometimes you're going to fall short because of things that we control. We're going to fall short because of things that we control. But for me personally, I try to make sure that the reason I fall short is never because I didn't work hard enough. And that's what I told myself from day one. I came out of Tacoma and saw Michigan. Coach comes to see me. I can't walk really. Got a long way to go. I'm going to go all in. My dad always said, go big or go home, boss. Go big or go home. Don't waste your time going halfway. If I don't get to Michigan, I told myself it as sure as it's not going to be because I didn't work hard enough. So I think that's kind of a good way to live life. If we have these lofty goals, every goal should be a little lofty because one of the worst things we can do is set our goals too low and achieve them, right? If we set lofty goals, we better be willing to do the work required to achieve those. So,
absolutely, couldn't agree more with that. Okay, so now with that, you have given over 200 appearances talking about grit. You have received awards. You have been honored for your commitment to excellence, I like to call it. So maybe just touch on that a little bit. What has being able to tell your story meant to you, or to those people that have heard it? Because here at What Do We Do and Great Lakes Wealth, we are all about community. We want to lift up our community. We want to help our community. So we do want to share stories. So maybe, again, talk about what you've seen so far as a result of, your message, which, again, is a blessing, that you're able to share it with our community. And our community is not just here in Metro Detroit. Again, it's national. In some ways, it's international. So let's talk about that for just a quick second. And then, what's next? What's next for Austin and Abby Hatch?
Yeah, so I've been, as you mentioned, been incredibly blessed to have a lot of great opportunities to share my story and message with a lot of great companies, some of which are your friendly rivals. The Bernstein Private Wealth Managements, the Edward Jones, Northwestern Mutual, Pacific Lives, Prudentials, Thrivent Financial, UBS. But we'll stop there. We digress.
When we talked about universities, we talked about those lesser than.
Yeah.
You're okay?
For sure.
Words to the wise.
Words to the wise. So for any future guests, don't do what I just did. But yeah, so we had a lot of great opportunities and kind of carved out a niche in financial services, which is great because I think really what my message is about is building our lives for the big one. And I think, and from a financial planning insurance standpoint, it's for the big one. You do it for the big one, whether it's college, a house, marriage, whatever it is, that you're preparing for something. And I think in life, as I mentioned before, we can't plan for the big one. We don't know when the adversity, the big challenge is going to come our way, but we can prepare for it by how we approach challenge and adversity every single day. And so, from a life insurance standpoint, especially, I'm so grateful that, my dad had it and was able to continue to provide for me and my family despite, the loss. And this is maybe not an appropriate time to say this, but before the first plane accident in 2003, he actually didn't have life insurance, which is, tragically, my mom and siblings passed away. Obviously awful, but I don't think we should wait for the first big one to happen to really make sure we're protected. And again, that's not a marketing pitch to make sure everybody who sees this gets insurance. I'm just saying we shouldn't wait for the first big thing to happen in our life to really, okay, I do need to prepare. But we should just prepare for challenges. It's for the final, we're going to get a final exam at some point, and I don't think the final exam should be the first thing we've prepared for the entire semester of a class, metaphorically speaking, right? And if we want to get an A in the class, it takes A effort consistently, not just when the final exam comes. So,
we do say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Mm-hmm. And that's about, setting yourself up for success now with investing today or tomorrow, but absolutely with your estate plan. And we talk about your money now, your money later, and your money for the next generation. And so we absolutely think it's serious to talk about life insurance and what's appropriate, investment planning and planning solutions and what's appropriate. So there's no topic, that's taboo when it comes to, setting yourself up for failure or really, hopefully setting yourself up for success. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And there's no bigger ambassador for that than us here at Great Lakes Wealth. So Brooke, anything, I don't know, the questions you have?
I just wanted to ask you, do you think resilience is a choice?
I do, because I think resilience is, I think I mentioned this earlier, it's the decision, it's the choice to take massive action in the face of adversity. And it's like in class, like in school, for me, in my recovery, I kind of thought about my recovery as just like another class. I had school and then I had this other thing to worry about in addition to that. So it's if I want to get an A in my recovery, I'm going to have to put A effort. We all know those people who those friends you ask, how'd you do on that? I got A-. We have those people. But it's but if you want to get the A, you got to put in the A effort. You got to do things that people aren't willing to do. Mm-hmm. Resilience, if you want to get an A in resilience or an A in overcoming, you got to do things people aren't willing to do. If you want to get a B, you got to make some sacrifice, but not as much as if you want to get an A. Right. And then if you want to get a C or a D, you average, do the bare minimum, and make a decent recovery or a decent road to
just to survive, right? I mean, it's just the bare minimum.
Just to get by. But it's why not try to get the A? Mm-hmm. But to get that A, we got to do things that we got to be willing to do things that most people aren't willing to do and make sacrifices to get better every single day. So,
it's interesting too, the fight or flight response. Right, because back then you could have just shut down completely, even after the first time, the first crash. But then the second time, you had so much more physical adversity and everything else. But you could have chosen just to shut down completely, and you went the opposite.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's go big or go home. Right. Why not? If by the grace of God my life was spared again, why not go big? Right? I think 2022 is going to be the greatest year any of us have ever had.
Yay!
But to achieve that, though, I think we got to go big, right? We can't go medium and expect to achieve the greatest things ever. If we want to achieve great things, we got to put forth great effort. We got to go big. So,
You heard it here first. 2022 is going to be great, and you got to go big. I love that. Well, Austin, this is a transition to my favorite part of the show, actually. It is the What Do We Do podcast. But when we have guests on, our viewers, our listeners, they don't want to know what do we do. They really want to know what Austin do. And what I mean by that is, what would Austin go back and tell his 18-year-old self? Or what would you tell other 18-year-olds today?
Really decide to set that standard for yourself and always remember it. Because I think that this was kind of how I sort of approached my basketball and recovery as well. And I don't think I was quite as good about it in some ways as it was in others, but I think it's standard over circumstance.
Ooh, I like that.
Standard over circumstance. And if we set a standard for ourselves and we truly believe in that standard, I think we'll do whatever we can to achieve that standard, regardless of circumstance. And right, I mean, if our standard is the A in class, we'll do whatever it takes to get that A, right? Or whatever your standard is. Everybody's got a different one. And I think just for me, it's remember the standard and don't get discouraged, because there's a lot of everybody's got reasons to be discouraged. Everybody's dealing with the challenges of their own, and just remember the goal and remember the standard,
and don't get discouraged. Again, you epitomized "don't get discouraged" because of your circumstance, and so very well said. It's also been documented in that ESPN documentary, again, called Miraculous, so please find it and watch it, that Coach Beeline said that you've only had 2 really bad days in your entire life. I'm assuming those 2 days were those plane crashes. So I can't believe that every other day has been awesome. So I know that you've had other, challenges to overcome, but please talk about, again, that positive mindset and, how you carry that with you, not just for today, but, with your future.
Yeah. Well, I think I told Coach, I've really only had 2 bad days in my life. A lot of tough days after both accidents, obviously, and a lot of tough days, but 2 only really, really bad days. And I think I've found that the foundation of a lot of, I don't want to say joy or satisfaction in life, comes from gratitude. If I'm grateful to be married to my wife Abby, she's amazing, and I could go on and on about her, but she's incredible. But we have challenges, right? Every couple does. Every family, every organization, everybody's got challenges. But if we're grateful for the opportunity to be a part of the Great Lakes Wealth team, if I'm grateful to be here on the podcast with you, I'm going to do my best to deliver on your expectations, right? If I'm part of a company and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be there, I'm going to do what I can to serve that company and add value in the ways they're expecting. Maybe I'm going to even do my best to do more than what they're expecting, right? And so I think, I just think that, going back, just having gratitude and, I really just believe that that's the kind of the foundation of everything. If we're grateful, and that doesn't mean we ignore the challenges or ignore anything else, but we'll just do it. If we're grateful, it's hard to be grateful and negative at the same time. They actually did a study at Duke University.
Who? Where?
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
What?
It would be a lot more credible if it was a study done at the University of Michigan.
Absolutely.
It would be a lot more credible.
Amen, brother.
And they actually found, and I don't know if these results are legitimate because Duke's Duke, whatever.
Yes.
They found that our optimism, our positivity is a competitive advantage in any circumstance. Why not choose to be positive? It's sometimes more difficult to choose to be positive, though. It's more difficult to be resilient. It's easier to allow ourselves to be the product of circumstance. It's easy to be negative. But I'm reminded of the cadet prayer at West Point, and thank you to anybody who's watching this who has served or whose family members have served in our armed forces. Thank you for your service. But There's 2 lines in the cadet prayer. First one is, Lord, encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life. Second one is, make us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life. It's uncommon to overcome challenges. I think there's more people in the world who are the product of circumstance, who let themselves be defined by what happens to them. I think that's more common. But if we want to be more so defined by our response, you got to do the uncommon work, right? You got to approach that adversity in an uncommon way. And to do that, though, we're going to have to choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong consistently. And I don't know anybody who's watching this who runs a company or who works for a company. Doesn't matter. If we consistently choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, our team's going to win. I really believe that. Not that maybe that's too simple. But business is hard. Life's challenging, right? But if we choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, we're going to win in my recovery. The harder getting to Michigan was choosing the harder path. But if I have that goal, I'm going to have to consistently choose the harder right. The harder right's getting up out of bed, going to the gym early before school, staying in class after school. It's harder to be a great teammate. It's easier to be negative, easy to, I'm not playing. I don't have the role I want to. And just, woe is me. That's easy. It's harder to be a great teammate. Like, I feel like that's a great line in the cadet prayer. Choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. And if we consistently choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, I feel like good things are going to happen. So,
you are an inspiration, my friend. That's deep and meaningful. Your story is raw. Your story is real. You are, again, an inspiration. You are a blessing. You are a miracle, not just because you survived those 2 plane crashes, but because you were able to share that amazing, inspirational story and that positive outlook and encourage greatness when you could be the easiest one to not. So I really want to thank you for being here today, Austin Hatch. You're an amazing man. Brooke, thank you for being here. Any last comments?
No, thank you. No, it's just an incredible story. I mean, and the story aside, who you are and who you've become is incredible in itself. I hope my kids are like you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And again, in that documentary, it talks about, you're just getting started at the end. They talk about these tragedies and, where you were in your life at the end of that documentary. Austin's just getting started, right? Something along those lines. Well, you may or may not know, but at What Do We Do, we also say something very similar, my friend. We say that this is the What Do We Do podcast. Mm-hmm. This is season 2, episode 12. That's number 54 total. And we have over 25,000 likes, downloads, subscribes. Please go check out some of the prior podcasts with other amazing guests and other amazing investment topics. But with all of that, Brooke Allen, Austin Hatch, we're just getting started.
Love it.
Booyah.
Booyah.
Thanks for being here.
For sure. Thanks for having me. Really
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. It's only intended to provide education about the financial industry. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Any indices referenced for comparison are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. As always, please remember investing involves risks and possible loss of principal capital. Please seek advice from a licensed professional.